Hi, so my name is Emma Johnson, and I'm a writer, an artist, and of course, a musician. Although I don't really think of those things separately, but I guess just adding labels so you kind of get the idea. When I went to art school, one of my painting instructors, one of my favorite professors said that an idea must demand the medium. So for me, the idea comes first, and then whatever medium you use is in support of that idea. So sometimes it might be painting a painting, sometimes it might be writing an essay, and other times it might be writing a song. And that can get even more intricate because then, well, which instrument would represent that idea the most accurately, or not accurately, but what would express your idea the most. So it's kind of like, like I might write on the guitar. I also play the violin, so that would have a lot of connotations of classical kind of coming into whatever I'm playing. So it's kind of like art history is to art, the same thing in music. Like, what is that saying? Or a key. How is that influencing how the audience is understanding the music, or how you're expressing yourself that way. So let's see. So yes, so I'm Emma Johnson. Describing myself. Well, actually, first of all, maybe I could talk about my kind of musical journey or my background in music. So my first instrument was the auto harp, which I taught myself to play in 3rd grade, and then I would play that at church and at musical concerts and that kind of thing at school. Then in 4th grade, everyone learned how to play the recorder, and then finally in 5th grade, instruments started. So I chose to play the violin. Then 2 years later, we moved from Iowa to Michigan, and there wasn't an orchestra. So I continued I took private lessons through the Copper Country Suzuki Association, where we'd have private and group lessons and an orchestra. And then I joined the band at Houghton High School, where I played the flute, because the band instructor thought that suggested the flute because it has the same musical range as the violin, so it would take me less time to catch up to the rest of the students. So I played the flute for the rest of high school, but mainly now I play the guitar, the violin, and the piano. So the guitar, I taught myself how to play that starting between the summer between 6th and 7th grade, and then my junior year of high school I kind of made my debut at a open mic, so that was fun. And then it was called the Suburban Exchange, that was in Houghton, Michigan, and I would open up for bands, like friends bands, and so that was really cool. So I would sing, play guitar, and write, sing, play guitar, and I would write my own music as like a solo act kind of thing. And later at the University of Minnesota, I took guitar lessons for 2 semesters, and then here in Midland, Michigan, at a community college nearby, I took group piano lessons for 2 semesters, because I just think that piano is like a really good foundation for things. And for the past 10 years, I also have been playing in the community orchestra here in in Midland, and that's been a lot of fun. It's really pushed me as a musician because about half of the people in the orchestra are amateurs, and then the other half are professionals, a lot of music instructors, that kind of thing. The town is, most people work at Dow, which is this chemical plant, so we have a lot of scientists, and kind of the way that they express themselves is through music, because it's very mathematical, but also a way to express yourself creatively. Not that chemistry isn't creative, obviously it is, but you know what I mean. So yeah, so that's been great. So we're playing Dvorak and Haydn and Holst for this May concert coming up. But I kind of use classical as a jumping off point. Like, I feel like a lot of the bands that I like that are just, you know, rock and roll, indie kind of bands, a lot of them have classical training, and they might not use that directly. I mean, they're not like playing Bach like in the middle of their set or something like that, although that would be pretty awesome in my opinion. But and I've kind of done things like that, just started playing Vivaldi. But in any case, the point is that I feel like, or I don't feel, I don't think, I'm saying that classical study, I think, leads to being a better musician. Like, I remember reading this interview with one of my favorite poets, the beatnik poet Allen Ginsberg, and I remember him saying that his education at Columbia in New York was basically like bullshit, and his you know, his prep school you know, was just, yeah, just basically all bullshit. And I was just kind of like, well, you know, you might think that, but I don't think your poems would be as good or the same had you not had that classical training. So I kind of, sometimes I bring the violin into the rock and roll music to add something. I think it's kind of cool if you add the violin or the cello, just kind of bringing in a different flavor or something like that, you know, to the drum, bass, guitar singing kind of thing. But yeah, so I just, even if I'm writing a rock song that isn't trying to show off classical technique or show off that you know music theory, or you know crazy like 7/8 or well, I guess 6/8 isn't very that uncommon, but you know, these more kind of math rock kind of things. I think it does inform your music, so I do that. But yeah, the main thing that I like to do is I like to write songs as a singer songwriter, playing the guitar, and I do that as a solo artist. And when I was in college, I played in a few bands, so that was cool. So mostly I would write the songs and I'd bring them to rehearsal, and then the drummer and the bassist would make up their own parts to support that, and also give me feedback, you know, things like, well, I think maybe you can just launch into the chorus there, or maybe we can add 4 bars at the beginning, or, you know, you don't need that extra chorus, that kind of thing, to help improve it. So that was really great, because I played with a lot of really talented musicians, so that really helped me. I kind of felt like even though I was writing all the songs, they were kind of better musicians, so that's always awesome when you can set it up that way for yourself. So yeah, so right now I just I like to write songs. Actually, one more thing I should say is I'm really into music theory. So I have a book and a workbook that I'm working through, because I think that really helps. So anyway, my process does involve music theory. So let me talk about that. So a lot of musicians, like I'll read in rock magazines and things like that, like most musicians are saying the music comes first, always music first. Like I know like Nirvana and the Pixies said that, and I don't know, I don't think I've ever heard a musician say the opposite way. I'm sure there are examples, but for me the words always come first. And I guess like with my educational background, I have a BA in English and then a BFA in photography and painting. So words are important to me. I mean, music is a form of communication. Visual art is a form of communication, and the written word is a form of communication. But just for me personally, it's the written communication that I feel is something that I want to highlight or put first. And I guess maybe I could read about it or that kind of thing. Maybe there have been studies. I know like with filmmaking, it's always the visual that trumps the sound. You know, like the dialogue is secondary. It's the visual, which is probably why in big pharma ads, it's always telling you about all the symptoms of the drug while they're showing all of these crazy things like swinging in swings and I don't know, going to beach parties or things while they're telling you that you're going to be nauseous or that kind of thing, because they know that it's the visual that people are going to be paying attention to. But in any case, for me, it's words. So I really like artists like Leonard Cohen or the Silver Jews, who are putting things, writing first. Maybe they wouldn't say that, but I guess I'll say that. For me, what I do is I write a lot of poems, and so if there's a particular poem that I feel could lend itself to a song, what I'll do is I'll start reading that poem aloud, and then it's kind of a cadence, get into like a cadence where I'm kind of chanting the words, and then it'll kind of after repeating it over and over, then it kind of turns into singing. And so then I might go to the piano keyboard or play some chords on the guitar and try to figure out the notes that I'm playing, and then kind of go from there. And a lot of times at that point I'll simplify the lyrics, I'll cross out a lot of things, I'll make words with multiple syllables into, like a 3-syllable word. Maybe I'll try to find a 1-syllable word to just kind of try to less is more, try to have it more compact, because that's the best writing if you can say it in less words. Kind of like with music, if you can say it in less notes. Maybe you need a lot of words, maybe you need a lot of crazy notes, and that's great, and so that's why I need to be able to do those things, to have a large vocabulary, or to be able to play the technical things. But for me, it's really trying to make it the less words. And my mom has an MFA in poetry, so she kind of influenced me that way, thinking about that. So growing up, I kind of heard a lot about that because because she was doing that, and then going on for a PhD in communication. So I heard a lot of kind of discussions about writing, and so that's really influenced me too. I guess parents definitely have their influence, even if they're not working exactly in the same medium. So so then I'll write in the stresses, like that, you know, just like you would figure out a Shakespearean poem for English class and write in the stresses and that. So and then I'll write in the rhythm. I'll start doing that like on a page next to kind of where I'm writing this all down. Then I have a music program on my iPad, which you can put in input notes and then have it mechanically play it for you. So I find that helpful. So if I've made a mistake and that I didn't quite, you know, I thought it was a dotted quarter, but really it was a quarter, but I wasn't didn't quite have that right, then I can do it in there, and of course it'll say, you know, like, oh, maybe I'm missing a half beat or something, and I'll try to figure out if I need to change the time signature for a measure, or if I just didn't count it right. So it's kind of a check that way. Then after I've kind of got things to a pretty good point, but I'm still in process, then I'll look at different charts of guitar chords, so I can try to figure out what key I'm in. So then if I'm having an issue where I'm not sure what chord would work for a certain part of the song, then I can look to charts and you know, try to figure that out. Or if something doesn't kind of sound quite right, then maybe I'll try to figure out, well, is it in this key signature, or what are some possibilities of notes that are in the key signature that might work, you know, for that phrase or whatever. And so then I'll try that. I'll also go to the keyboard and I'll play different scales, and I'll try to figure out, you know, what scale it's in that way. So then if it isn't like in an ionic scale, I can figure that out, or I can at least know what notes I'm using, even if I can't figure out if it's major or minor. I guess that's can be pretty easy to find out, maybe not all the time. So yeah, so I'll use that, and of course maybe I'll change keys and signatures in the middle of the song, but I think you get what I mean. I just use music theory as a tool, so I'm always trying to get better at that. And I know, you know, there's sort of like a, you know, should you be so informed in that and then maybe not be creative, but I don't know. I think I fall more in the school of thinking the more you know about music, the better, like the more tools it'll give you to be able to be a better songwriter. So you just can't be afraid to break the rules once you have learned the rules. So yeah, so I guess that's about it. I mean, I guess content wise, you know, I'm a pretty cheery person, but a lot of my music is a little dark, so I guess it's one way to kind of express that. So yeah, most of my music is kind of dark, maybe talking about like unrequited love, or you know, things like that. And then I'll also have throw in a few funny songs. Like one time I wrote a song about how much I love chocolate, you know, so that's kind of fun. And then I've also been kind of exploring writing about things that aren't usually written about. So the last song that I wrote, I guess that was a month ago, was about the American dream, but kind of the dark side of it, that maybe that's a myth kind of thing, especially since they say social mobility is more likely in Western Europe and Canada. So, you know, again, there's probably someone who's done it, because, you know, everyone has done everything. You think you're being creative, but there's probably hundreds or thousands of people who have done something similar before you. But yeah, so I'm just just trying to express my ideas through music, you know, for catharsis, and also to connect with other people, I think connection in music, you know, is a big thing, especially if you look at its history. I took some classes in like the history of jazz and the history of rock and roll, kind of, you know, learning kind of its origins from the beginning. So yeah, I think that can be helpful as well. So yeah, basically I'm a singer songwriter and you know, playing things, and also I do collaborate with other people. I work at a science and art museum as an educator, as one of my part-time jobs, and so I'm I just formed a band with someone else who works there, and I'm super excited because she has a BA in music. So like I said, I think it's great to always be able to collaborate with people who maybe know more than you. And I also, one of my friends from orchestra, we actually get together and play. Actually, Chili Gonzalez, the Etudes book, she plays cello. Again, I play violin. So instead of playing it on the piano, I'll take the G clef and she'll take the bass clef. So that's just kind of a fun thing that I do. So, you know, like I'm collaborating with people, and you know, so that's just always fun. But mostly I'm a singer songwriter on the guitar, because I do like to kind of have a lot of control over things. But hey, you know, when I was in a band, if other people wrote songs, you know, I was glad to lend support and see what I could do to help their vision. So you know, I think that also pushes you as a musician, especially when they have different influences or you know, a slightly different taste or style, then that can, you know, really push you out of your comfort zone. So in the future, I'm just looking to continue what I do, just become a better musician, and also just try to build a bigger audience. I mean, not that I have to like be famous. I don't think I would maybe necessarily want to be famous. I mean, it seems kind of that could be kind of horrible, kind of good in some ways, horrible in others. I guess the grass is always greener on the other side. But yeah, you know, I put a lot of work into my music, so it would be great to get it to a greater audience, besides maybe art school friends and things like that. I also do a lot of recording, and so again, with playing the violin, a lot of times I'll add, you know, I can add a violin track, things like that. I also have a drum machine, so I'm want to learn how to use that better. You know, not that you have to throw the whole kitchen sink into things. I guess I'm using a lot of cliches today, but in any case, yeah, I just think it's great to just have these tools at your disposal. So when you have an idea and you say, you know, a song is the way to go for expressing myself to the world, you have those tools at your disposal. So thank you for listening. Again, I'm a musician, and my name is Emma Johnson. So bye for now. Thank you.